Welcome to this webinar on submitting to the 2024 Sigma Tau Delta Centennial Convention, the theme Influx, which will be April 3rd through 6th, 2024 in St. Louis. Make sure that your audio works. Introduce yourself by typing your name and school in the chat box. It'll be interesting to see. There should be people from all over the place. Your microphone will be muted for the presentation, but there'll be time for question and answer at the end. And so do place questions in the question and answer box. We'll open the meeting for questions after the presentation. I'll give you the signal for that, and then we'll answer all the questions that you have. I am Glen Brewster, one of the convention chairs, and you will soon see some of the other people working with us, Amy Comeford, for example, and Carrie King, and some of the people from the central office, Elfie Gabriel, for example, and Naaman Kent, who is literally behind the scenes providing support for us today. Again, this is our webinar on submitting to the Sigma Tau Delta Convention. And covered in this webinar will be why to attend the convention, the different academic submission types that you can provide, and how to submit. The convention, some of you may have attended before, some of you may have not. The convention every year brings together about 1,000 plus attendees, primarily students, but also dozens and dozens, up to 100 faculty sponsors and guests and alumni. The people who will be there will be Sigma Tau Delta students, Kappa Delta, who are our members from the community colleges, Sigma Tau Delta alumni, faculty advisors, and we usually have a good group of guest attendees as well. So why attend the convention? First and foremost, to present and be recognized by your peers from around the country and from your own, to promote your own chapter as well. To hear paper presentations, roundtables, and other events that are going on. We have a really packed schedule, and there's going to be lots and lots of things for you to do. You'll attend readings and workshops by featured authors. You'll hear more about that in a few minutes. You'll be able to participate in workshops of various kinds on things like professional development, on pedagogy, on creative writing, and you'll be able to network and socialize with students and advisors from around the globe. And many of the students who attend these say that that networking, getting to know people from around the country, is among the most valuable experiences. So who is eligible to present? Well, Sigma Tau Delta students, Sigma Kappa Delta student members, alumni members, and also transfer students who are often listed as provisional members of Sigma Tau Delta. If you have questions about any of those are the kind of things that often come up at the Q&A session at the end. So what can students submit? They can submit a paper in any of the categories like original critical essays, creative nonfiction, poetry collections, original prose, and so on. You can also submit an additional paper on the Common Reader, which this year is Then the War and Selected Poems 2007-2020 by Carl Phillips, which recently won the Pulitzer Prize for Poetry, so you need to read it. And you could also submit one additional submission or an additional submission for a research and around proposal, and we'll touch on each one of those briefly as we get to that part of the presentation as well. So paper submissions, they're critical essays. So you would submit a complete paper, and at this stage, there'll be no further revisions accepted. Keep that in mind. So you want to make sure that you have a faculty member, probably your chapter advisor, look it over with you before you submit it. It needs to be no more than 2,000 words, and that does exclude title, works cited, and notes. You'll select from a topic list like Common Reader, Gender Studies, for example, and you'll submit a brief critical essay thesis statement along with it, and you'll choose keywords from a drop-down menu that shows things like theme, genre, author, methodology, and a variety of others. For creative works, you may submit short stories or flash fiction or drama or screenplay or nonfiction, or poetry, a collection of poems or one longer poem. The total word count, so that if you do a collection of poems, for example, this question comes up a lot. If you do a collection of poems, you still don't exceed the 2,000 word count. So again, talk with one of your advisors about the best way to submit and what works to submit. You will also submit a brief critical project statement. And again, you'll select keywords from a drop-down list that have things like theme and genre for you. We also, as I mentioned, accept paper submissions, and you could do an additional submission on the Common Reader, which this year is the Pulitzer Prize winner in the War and selected poems by Carl Phillips, a well-known poet who also happens to teach at Washington University nearby. You can submit one paper on the Common Reader. They can be submitted under any of the critical essay topics. So you could do a critical essay on the poetry, or you could do a creative writing genre. Students have chosen to do that often in the past. So when you do this, you'll also include an explanatory description, fewer than 100 words, that simply explains the connection between your own work and the Common Reader, and some helpful tips. So you want to start your submission now, and you want to finish before October 23rd. October 23rd is the deadline, and you'll receive multiple reminders about that, but it's good for you to note that as well. It's also good to note that you should start in the application form that's on the website as soon as possible, because you can create your account and then you can save it, and then you can keep coming back to it. So that's a useful thing to know. You do want to ask your chapter advisor or another faculty to review your paper. I'm doing that for several of our students in our own chapter at this stage of the game as well, so that they can decide which of their papers to submit and make sure that they're submitting the best work that they possibly can. You want to make sure that you follow the formatting guidelines. You want to make sure that you choose a title that is 50 characters or less. You don't identify yourself on your paper. So if you do have a header, as most of us create when we're submitting a paper for a conference, or that these will be anonymous reviews, and make sure that you don't go over the 2,000 word limit, excluding title, works cited, and notes. I should point out that sometimes people don't know in advance, but you will, that there are convention awards. We give away a number of awards. We gave away nearly $12,000 awards last year at the convention 2023. Those are announced and presented at the awards luncheon, which is on Saturday early afternoon. So make sure that you account for that in your travel plans, that you stay and that you attend the awards luncheon. There are awards of up to $600 each. And you can see on the left a list of many of those. So make sure that you attend for that. Even if you don't win an award, you want to be there to support some of your fellow students. Just as a couple of examples of some of the newer awards, we have the Stimler-Dennis LGBTQ+ awards that were created a couple of years ago by two longtime chapter advisors. It honors active student members with the LGBTQIA+ themed critical essays and creative works. And to be considered for the award, when you are submitting your critical essay and or creative work, that you make sure that you choose these keywords, and they will automatically be entered in the pool that will be considered for that award. We also have the Beth DeMayo Poetry Award, also named after a longtime faculty chapter advisor. It's given to critical essays that discuss lyric, narrative, or dramatic poetry. And to be considered for that award as well, you would simply select the genre keywords of poetry of various kinds. Again, if you do choose those keywords, you'll automatically be entered into that category to be considered for that award. And there are others, but we just want to mention a couple. A question that often comes up for people who haven't attended convention is, what does a roundtable mean? So we're going to give you more examples that'll be given out to you over the website and various other venues in the next couple of weeks. But a roundtable discussions are scheduled for 90 minutes. Those are ones where you come up with some ideas about some discussion on a topic that you find of interest. Later, you'll have a moderator who will be a faculty or an alumni member. The submitter, who is the primary contact for the roundtable, can be a student or alumni member or an advisor. So there's options there. And priority selection also will be given to proposals that include members from multiple chapters. So you may want to reach out to people you know from other chapters to see if they're interested in your particular topic. And just some potential roundtable topics are the ones that are listed below. It could be on the Common Reader, it could be on the convention theme, in flux. There are ones that are on professional development. There are ones that are on specific topics like composition or rhetoric or literary themes or technology. And so use your imagination and think about the topics that you have become interested in, that you may have done some research in your various classes or even outside of classes. For the document that you will submit, you will have a long abstract, which is only up to about 250 words, about a paragraph. You'll also submit a short paragraph, 50 words. As you may guess, these are things that will be featured in the program. And you'll also have a bibliography to show the evidence of related research that will inform the discussion that you'll have with the people who come to your roundtable. We do have limited AV needs. We're not in a university setting. We're actually in a hotel, a conference center. And so we have limited AV needs. So we need to have an explanation for you of why you would need to use it. And if you don't, that's perfectly fine as well. And again, typically you would list the 3 to 5 participants and the moderator who are going to be part of your roundtable. You also have research in the round proposals. This is a relatively new format that's been very popular. Only student members may submit for this. And the document for that will include your name, chapter name, email address, cell phone number, and a proposed research topic, up to 10 words, relatively limited. But it needs to be questions that will spark discussion on the topic, and those questions can be up to 50 words. So use your imagination. Again, think about the kinds of things that you become interested in recently, and then you'll also provide a longer explanation, up to 250 words, that gives information on your topic and questions, persuading the evaluators who will be reviewing these and making decisions about which ones are included, that this topic and these questions will spark discussion and will reach a broad audience. This has been a very popular format in recent times. So how to submit. You need to, again, start now, go online, create your account so that you can save it, come back to it. The website is at, and you can get access to information. Xordo is the platform that we're using. Make sure that you're also using an email that you'll still have access to through April 24. If you graduate in December, you're still eligible, but you want to make sure that we can get access to you. And you want to save and complete later your in your account, and you'll provide the provided the submissions are completed again by October 23rd, a couple of weeks from now, 5 p.m. and that's Central Daylight Time. So remember that that's Central Daylight Time, not Eastern Time where I am. Okay, and then we're going to just go over very quickly. What you're going to see when you start creating your account is the steps. You'll agree to terms of service. You'll select your track. It's fairly straightforward. Then you'll see the author information, your own information. You'll be asked to enter your, excuse me, I jumped ahead. You'll be asked to enter your title, 50 characters or fewer, and just the title there. Then you'll give your information, again, the kind that you will need to be able so that we can contact you later. You will be go through a series of steps to provide the information about your submission, selecting from your list of topics, your short description, and so on. You will be asked to agree to a statement of originality, which we amended recently to say, please do not submit AI work. We know that you're good English majors and good students, so that you wouldn't do that. But you'll upload your paper as a doc or a doc in the docx format. Make sure you're adhering to the guidelines. Make sure that you're reading carefully the guidelines for things like the roundtable document and the research in the round document as well. And you will submit all of these things by October 23rd. Again, a couple of weeks away, but it's 5 p.m. Central Daylight Time. All of those are due. And then we are giving you deadlines for when we are going to have them processed, have them read. We have to submit them to evaluators from throughout the country. But we hope to notify people so that they can start planning by the toward the end of this semester, but before the semester is over. And that way you can start planning at the end of this semester or by the beginning of next semester for your travel and all the other events that you're going to be hearing about that are part of the convention. So that's a quick overview. Remember that the registration runs then from January 4th through 17th. That's the beginning of the following semester. If your semester begins around the 17th, as ours does here where I am, then you want to make sure that you're in contact with your advisor and other people who are in charge of helping you do the registration process. But it's relatively cheap. In fact, it's incredibly cheap. If any of you have participated in professional conferences, you know that it's very expensive to attend a conference, but we hold the rates very, very low. So it's $84 only for early registration, $99 for faculty, alumni, and non-members. And there is the additional $25 for the convention awards luncheon, which you should attend because you are hoping, I assume, to win one of those monetary awards and be recognized and have your picture taken as well as one of the winners of one of the various convention awards. And you must be registered, as I said, by January 17th to be included in the program. And you'll hear more about the program and ways to access it and those kind of things as we move along. Okay. So now we have time, I think, for questions and answers. You provide the questions. We'll do our best to provide answers. How many papers can we submit? Sometimes I have to review this myself because it can be a little bit complicated. It's not exactly algebra, but it's like that. You can submit either a critical paper or a creative work, plus a common reader. And you could also submit a roundtable or a research and around. So theoretically, you could submit up to 3 different kinds of works. That's unusual, but sometimes people do it. But again, it gives you possibilities. There are a number of people who do submit to, say, a critical paper. Yes, research and around, you need to put identifying documentation in it because that's the way that we will be in touch with you, because you'll be receiving a little bit further information. If you're accepted, you'll receive a little bit more information about the format, about what to expect, about what materials to bring, how to be prepared, and you'll have some conversation with other people who are participating as well. Yes. There are no processing fees in addition to the $85. In fact, this year, it used to be that we had the registration fee. This year, we decided to simplify things, partially because those of you who are going to be getting money from your chapter or money from your university, we are aware, we all work at universities, that in some cases that complicated matters for reimbursement. So we included the processing fees in the $85 this year for students. Actually, because there is so much demand, because there are so many people who submit creative works, we do ask that you make the hard decision about what kind of creative work to submit. So that's why if you did a collection of poems, for example, you would not also do creative nonfiction, for example. I'm assuming you mean creative nonfiction as opposed to a critical essay. And it's simply because we are aiming to allow as many people to be able to present as possible. How do you submit your poetry if you don't have a common theme? This question comes up with my students all the time because they have created what they see as disparate kinds of poems in their creative writing classes, and they're not quite sure what to do with it. So I say, well, come talk with me or talk with your creative writing teacher and talk about ways in which you can organize them around a common theme. It might be something simple as love poem or anti-love poems. I can remember those as specific examples. So be creative yourself, but also talk with your faculty advisors, with your own faculty, and they will definitely be able to help you come up with a common theme. Again, this is a way for us to group these together and then turn them into panels so that whenever you are presenting, you'll be among a group of students who are reading work that is not the same, but is at least has some of the same kind of themes. That's the idea. Does someone from my chapter have to submit for our advisor and officers to attend? No. If a student does submit and they want to present their work, then yes, they do have to attend. But you will find if you come to this convention, you will find that there are a number of people there who, for example, may not have been accepted, but they submitted. We often have students from our chapter. We usually require our chapter students to at least submit, but when if they're not accepted, we still help provide funding and support for them to travel. And it's often the case that with smaller chapters, or maybe in some cases new chapters, those advisors and officers want to attend, get a sense of it, and then they are absolutely the best ambassadors to go back to their school and encourage their students to submit and become more active the following year, to help support them to travel to the next convention. Can an alumnus who is not currently a student, if you are alumni, yes, there are categories for alumni submissions. I would have to go back through and remind myself, but in the critical paper and in the creative fiction, the creative writing categories, I think that's accurate, but I would have to double check to make sure. The reason I hesitate is I've been doing this for a long time, and we sometimes have to, mainly because of numbers, have to modify the requirements from time to time. Maybe one of our other people who are here who might have a better answer for that question can jump in. Yeah. How do I find people from other chapters for my roundtable? One of the best ways to do that would be to find out who your regent is. Each of you is a member in one of the 6 regions around the country. I am in the Eastern Region. Felicia Steele from the College of New Jersey is a very active regent. You could go to the website and find out, for one thing, what region you're in if you're not sure. Then you could find out who the regent is, get in touch with that person and say, I am trying to develop a roundtable on such and such a topic, and that regent will be happy to put out that information. Sometimes he or she will already know people who are interested, who are already looking for other people to participate. And that would be a great way to meet people from other chapters if you don't know them already. You could also look up people. You could find out who are people from chapters or where chapters are in your region or in your state. I'm in Massachusetts. We're close to Connecticut. Several years ago, we simply looked up a couple of the local chapters and got in touch with them. And we decided we wanted to have a meeting where we met at a local city and had a pizza party, for example. That would be a way to find out. That would probably be the simplest way to get in touch with your regent. I, again, have to double check sometimes myself because I can't always remember the categories. I'm trying to flip back through my notes. But as I understand it, yes, personal essays, memoirs are quite common for the creative writing category. And honestly, I can remember several of them, including some students from my own chapter over the years who have won awards because of the quality of their personal essays or memoirs. Every year, people submit on a wide range of themes and broad areas for their critical essays. Often people are submitting work that they have done for their varied classes, which is one of the reasons why you want to, if you attend, you want to go to as many different sessions as possible and enlarge your own understanding of how broad the English discipline is and how interesting the work that other students are doing around the country, and give you lots and lots of ideas about things you're going to read when you come home. But yes, this year we chose the theme Influx. And if you'll go to the website and read again the description about that, we were mindful that this is the 100th anniversary. If I haven't said that enough, I'll try to say it a couple more times. This is the 100th anniversary of our society. It was founded in 1924. And so we were trying to think of ways in which we could get people to look back to 1924. So in the mini essay that I wrote about the connection to the past and what was going on in 1924, a lot of interesting stuff, that we decided that we also wanted to make sure that we were reflecting what was happening in 2024. So we used the theme Influx, which of course means undergoing change, because that seemed to be the most appropriate way to characterize not only how the English discipline, very broadly defined, has developed over the years, but the way in which it's evolving now very rapidly under pressures of all kinds and under very interesting circumstances. So if you could work in some reference to the theme Influx, we try to group those papers together as well, so that we give them serious attention. And if any of the other convention chairs or chapter advisors who are here would like to jump into the And again, if you have questions later, feel free to go to the website, particularly the convention website. There is an email address there where you can send questions. We get lots of those as the process goes forward. Send in your questions and we'll answer those in as timely a way as we can. I do see a question asking about how a script is presented. I'm assuming by that you mean if you get, say, a critical paper or say a short story accepted, how do you present it? You would present it as you would at a professional conference. That is, you would have a copy of your paper. You will be assigned to a panel. You will have a chair and you will have a moderator. You will have a chair who is a student. So we encourage you to volunteer for that, who knows in advance who the people are, who gets there early, meets the people, makes sure that that person knows how to pronounce your name as best he or she can, and then introduces each person briefly, and then the student reads the paper. Now, I encourage people to not read in a monotone and to do some of the things that those of us who do professional conferences do, which is make sure that you have a copy of your script, maybe a couple of copies with you in case one gets lost or gets coffee spilled on it, but has a couple of copies that are in very large print so that you can read and you can write notes and you can write marginal notes to yourself like slow down or how to pronounce a word, and that you use that and that you practice in advance to make sure that your time is in there. As you may guess, the 2,000 word limit is designed so that students will be able to read their paper or their story or the collection of poems within the time allotted so that the other members of your panel can also have time to present their work as well. So that's basically how that works. The roundtables and the research in the round are a little bit different, but again, the more of a script that you have, the more of an outline that you have, the better able you will be able to do it. I always tell students it's like the oral reports I ask them to do, that even if I'm asked them to sort of speak ad hoc, that they need to have careful notes so that whenever they are moving through their different points, that they are always well prepared and don't get lost. I see a question, how is a play presented? We don't have the resources, and we're not really set up for presentation of a play in 3 dimensions, so to speak. So there, if you had, and this is often the case, that students will have a script of a short-ish one-act play, for example, or a scene. Often students ask about the novels that they're working on. And so we suggest, again, that you work with your advisor, you work with a faculty member, tell them about the limitations. And again, it's because of the way in which the panels work. You are one of several people who will be presenting, and you do need to be mindful of the time so that you don't get over and just cut into someone else's time, and so that there'll be lots of time, there'll be enough time for lively discussion at the end. But you would read that, you would read the play in that way. And I'm trying to remember how people have done it in the past. Similar to the way that you might read a short story, you would simply indicate who the speaker was. And I see a question that I think maybe part of it got cut off. Outside of the theme, can we still submit? So I'm assuming that if you're saying outside of the convention theme in Flux, can we still submit other works? Yes. Again, the majority of the students are going to be submitting work on submitting work that they have done for classes, often, quite frankly, for classes before this semester, because as we're all aware, the deadlines for most of your papers for this semester or bigger projects are later than the convention deadline of October 23rd. So that I tell my students, for example, don't try to submit something from this semester unless it's something that already is complete and that they can revise before that October 23rd deadline. But instead, probably look back at work that they have done in the spring semester or even earlier that they can then carefully revise, go over with a faculty member and submit it. And that way they'll be able to answer all the questions you're asked about the work you're submitting. Can you use one of the keywords as a theme for a creative nonfiction? Absolutely. If you find that useful, if it spurs your imagination, you can use one of those. You might even look at the list to get some ideas. The list, as you may guess, are from successful themes that we have grouped panels around in the past, which means they came from the kinds of papers and creative works and roundtables and others that people have submitted in the past. So that might be a really good way of thinking about some possible themes that you could use for your thesis, or for describing your collection of poems, or for your creative nonfiction. Yeah, that would be good. I think this is a question that I saw in the chat and I was bringing up a minute ago about how a play is presented. So a play would be presented as a script. And again, you have the time limitations, the word limitations, 2,000 words, because you'll be part of a session where we have 3 to 4 other students presenting. So that's why we have to be so careful about the time, so that everybody gets a chance to present and have discussion at the end. So with a play, you would treat it as a script, and similarly to the way you would a section from a novel or from a short story. If your work is selected, you aren't required to present it at the conference, in the sense that we will force you to show up in St. Louis and read your work. But we will ask you, if your work is selected, if you plan on attending, because only works that are accepted and then have a real live human there to present it will be actually presented at the convention. So if you're submitting your work, we are assuming that you are eager to come to the convention, to participate just like any other professional convention, and it will be a great opportunity for you. I know that students are often nervous about it. I always tell my students that I'm a professional. As you can tell, I've been doing this for a long time. I participate in conferences of various kinds almost every year. And every year, I'm just as nervous as I was the very first time I did it, probably when I was a graduate student. But that's okay, because you know that going in, you get there, you start presenting your work, you have a great time, you meet other people, you have wonderful discussions, and you're really excited about it. And my students always say they can't wait till next year so that they can present their work again. You cannot submit more than once in the same category. And that's a good question, because there are some contests where you might be able to do that, for example. But again, it sort of comes back to, honestly, how successful this convention has been. As I said, this is our 100th anniversary. I've been attending conventions for over 20 years. When I first attended the convention, there were probably 300, maybe 400 student presenters. We had plenty of time. Now we have 800 to 1,000 student presenters every year. So we're glad of that success. But what it means is that we have to be careful. And so we have to, if our goal is to allow as many students to present as possible, we've had to restrict some of the submission requirements. Therefore, you can only submit in one of the categories. But remember that there are multiple categories that you could submit in. For example, you could do a critical paper, and you could also do something on the common reader. Or you could do something for a roundtable in addition to your creative piece, or you could also do a research and round in addition to your critical paper. So think about those options. Again, you might want to talk to other students in your chapter. You might want to talk to your faculty advisor about those different possibilities. So it looks like we have no more questions at the moment. I take that people are mulling over these many different possibilities, this staggering variety of things that you could submit. I hope that you're also getting excited about the many, many events and the people you will meet and the experiences you'll have if you attend the convention in St. Louis in April. But also remember that you can't present at the convention if you don't submit your work by the deadline, October 23rd. The best thing you can do now, if you're mulling over that possibility and thinking about what paper or what other kind of work to submit, the best thing you can do is go into the website and create your account now, save it, and then go back to it talk to your teachers, talk to your faculty advisor, talk to your fellow members of your chapter. Get in touch with your regent if you want to find people to work with you on a roundtable from different chapters. And so think about all the different ways that you can submit your work. And you will, so pay attention to the varied messages that we're going to be sending out from Sigma Tau Delta in the regular updates that you get. Make sure that you check the various social media, because there'll be updates there. There'll be student leaders who will be reading portions of the Common Reader. They'll also be tossing out ideas, telling you about ways in which they have participated in the past. They'll also perhaps be convincing you to try to be like them. In other words, to submit as they did in the past, maybe even to apply for one of the student leader positions that are always available at the convention. There are elections held there for the student leaders for the following year, and you might be one of those lucky students who are helping us plan for the convention for the following year. So if you do have further questions, again, go to the website, look up the information. There's a variety of information there. We're constantly adding information to it. We added some more information today about additional speakers that we're going to be having and events that are going on. You might also want to attend some of the regional conferences that are going on. Thank you, Carrie, for reminding me of that. That you can also find on the website. So explore the English.org website in general that Sigma Tau Delta has. It's extremely extensive. There are many, many opportunities for scholarships and award, even outside of the convention. But if you'll explore the convention website, you'll find that it might answer some of your questions. But if you have further questions that you want to ask, do get in touch with us through the email address that we monitor regularly. And we'll, as I said, we'll be putting up additional information and sending out additional information in the weeks to come. So we're really, really looking forward to seeing your submissions. We're seeing some already. We expect that we'll get many more as we get closer to the deadline. Again, October 23rd, 5 p.m. Central Daylight Time. Keep remembering that. But start your account soon. Think about, talk with other people from your chapter, and consider this wonderful, wonderful opportunity that you'll have.